let's see here. I have to get this, rig up my camera here so that I don't cut off your head.
Okay.
There.
Like me taking pictures. Back at the time of Jimmy Carter.
Yeah.
Now, Jimmy Carter was one of these born-again Christian type of deals.
Yeah.
He took a review of the agents that were serving the United States,
Mm-hmm.
and many of them were pretty seedy, pretty people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they weren't the kind who went to church every Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And so he cut out a bunch of people who he maybe didn't like them, but they were the people that kind of got information.
Mm-hmm.
So that weakened. Then along comes the Cold War,
Mm-hmm.
and they built up the agency pretty well to deal with Russia.
Mm-hmm.
And Clinton became president. And Clinton is anti-military, that type of thing.
Yeah.
The Cold War is over, so Clinton said, we don't need all these anymore.
We can cut some
So
costs.
he cut the personnel by 20%, and he cut their funding by 30%.
Mm-hmm.
So along comes Bush, and he's in the presidency for 6 months, and they blame everything onto him.
Right.
So anyway, they say that we could tell by satellites all the things you could see on the ground. They knew where piles of ammunition were, and they knew all this stuff, but they didn't know what was in their heads.
Yeah.
And they made a decision. This consensus thing, because a lot of times are wrong.
Yeah.
That they didn't have the real information, so they did some extrapolating.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that he's a bad guy, and there's a lot of people against him, and they're oppressed. So if they get a chance, they're going to join us.
Mm-hmm.
And so they geared up their action for that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And when the whole National Guard bunch evaporated,
Mm-hmm.
they were happy about it. But they didn't evaporate, they just disappeared from there and were waiting to do what they're doing now.
Yeah. That a lot of those
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
bad guys.
that's right. So when it came to this 9/11, how do I say it? They had took the information they had. That
Yeah.
the United States had the same knowledge that England had and that other places had, and based on that information, they all
Thought that he had all those stockpiles
the difference between Bush and the other thing is that the United Nations had passed resolutions 15 times, and
Saddam wouldn't to cooperate.
Saddam knew that they didn't have a resolve,
Yeah.
and but when Bush acted he did what the rest of them didn't have the guts to do,
Yeah.
or the fortitude to do.
Yep, that's true. It should have been a United Nations thing because
Well, yeah.
they should.
Well,
what's-
United 15 times.
Yeah, what good is it to have United Nations if they're not going to ever do anything
That's right.
except sit around and talk about it?
That's right.
I know. I mean, they could have actually have moved on it. It's really a failure of the United Nations, not a failure of the United States.
That's right.
Because I mean, they should have done something.
And going back to the weapons of mass destruction,
Yeah.
I listened to, I forget where, someone on the radio, this foreign affairs expert from one of the countries in that area. He had a very broken English.
Uh huh.
He says that they had the massive weapons of mass destruction. Saddam Hussein was afraid that there might be some bombings, and he didn't want to have their stockpiles blown up and spread the stuff. So they moved them into Syria. And then he didn't want to admit that they were gone because he was afraid of if his enemies around him, Iran and all the others, might hop on him if he didn't have them.
Yeah.
So he let on that he still had them.
Okay.
So when all this United Nations inspecting, looking for they were all
In the wrong place.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really not so cut and dry like people just think.
See,
Oh,
Syria stinks.
yeah.
You know that Israel blew up a nuclear operation that they were doing in Syria
When did that happen?
about maybe 2 or 3 months ago. They had they knew it was there, so Syria, Israel, they know that, those countries want to destroy them.
Right.
Completely, wipe them out, complete.
Yeah.
So when you're in the face of that, you do
Did
things.
they I don't remember too much about it. Did they make a big deal
There
about it?
hadn't been much. It's very
Low key, because they maybe
low-key.
don't. Syria doesn't want to know that it was there, and Israel, that would just
Well,
ramp things up
You
over
remember
there.
about how far back? Quite a long time back. Iraq had a program going well, and Israel bombed that out.
Okay. Well,
See,
yeah, they don't wait.
and people over here can complain about it, but hey, they're a long ways off. But we're not concerned, really. We're not. But if you know that I make a mistake and I'm gone and the whole country's gone,
Yeah.
you're going to act a little bit tighter than.
Yes. Yeah. That's true.
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah. They should have had Al as president instead of Bush, and it'd be fine.
I wonder what kind of indecision we would have had.
Oh.
I'm sure a lot of people think that's true, but I don't.
In the Vietnamese War, his dad was in the Congress. And he was very openly anti-Vietnamese War. But he also, because they were nurturing Al to be the president sometime, and so he didn't want to have him be a draft dodger and get out, because then it would ruin him for the future.
Okay.
So he pulled strings to give Al an assignment, like a newspaper type thing.
Okay.
Assignment in Vietnam, or he wasn't in
any
in real danger.
Yeah.
And of course, our good friend Kerry had just about the same situation.
Yeah.
He had a choice of where he was going to go, so he looks at the at the service over there, which would be the least hazardous,
Yeah,
and they took the speedboats.
yeah. That's well, you know, I don't know what I would do. I'd be I'm kind of scared about all that stuff. I'd probably pick the thing, but I always told Dave I would never be a pioneer woman either, because you know those Indians coming across the plains. I would have stayed back in Boston or something, 'cause that would have been too scary for
Yeah.
me. So I mean, I guess I can see where you might want to try to get the safest,
Sure.
especially if you're not convinced. And
Well, in a way, Bush was in the National Guard, Air Force,
Mhm.
and when he was in there, if they had went into action, he was there. He would have been in
Mhm. So they all kind of did the same thing.
some way, yeah.
Yeah. But, you know, it really wasn't a war that people were convinced about, and the government was, see, you know what, I think the government should not, the politicians should stay out of all this.
Anytime
To
you
a
have,
certain degree, you know, I mean,
anytime you have the Congress running a war, you can figure a failure.
yeah. Yep.
I think I'll go back to bed in a little bit.
Okay.
When I sleep, I'll feel all right.
Okay.
Listen, don't strip your bed.
Okay.
Just make it up, because I went down the basement yesterday. For some reason, I only washed one sheet.
Okay.
I have to wash the other sheet. When the winds come, they just stay like one day.
Uh-huh.
I make it up, and then when they come the next,
Yeah, yeah.
it's, oh, you're